Hello and welcome to Post Viral, Time to Heal with Lindsay and Stu. We love that you're listening, thank you so much, but just a reminder that we are not medical professionals, this is not medical advice, and we'd always recommend working with a qualified professional for individualised advice. Enjoy the show!
Hello!
Hello! Hi everyone, welcome to Post Viral.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm a bit low energy today, but in general, been having a pretty good time the last couple of weeks.
What do you think about how making progress in our 3 months in Mexico?
Yeah, the last couple of weeks I had some friends visit, and Lindsay, you did as well. And I wasn't feeling great going into it, but I was pretty amazed. I was able to do some snorkeling, hiking, biking, been biking this past week too. And kind of envisaging that, there was going to be the crash at some point during the week or after they left. But actually, I've done incredibly well. So
I'm flabbergasted with how much he's been able to do and so happy for him.
Thank you. Yeah. The sun, the change of scene, the beautiful environment. It's done a lot of wonders for me. But you too, I think.
Yeah, no, I think I've made progress in certain areas. For sure, I feel stronger. I've been able to do more yoga more regularly with my Yoga with Adrienne, and definitely a lot more socializing I can do than I used to be. I don't even worry about how much time in a day I spend with you or other people, I used to only after an hour or so I was done. But still struggling with some areas, which might be more concussion stuff than CFS. My brain still freaks out a little bit over some things like screens and biking and stuff.
Yeah. Although you're reading so much more than a few months ago.
Yeah, it's true. I can read a lot more, which is so nice.
Yeah.
And steps-wise, I think slowly.
But I'm so impressed with your socializing. Where we are now, it's a nice community. It's slightly older, bit of a retirement community.
I love it.
Lindsay's out socializing with our neighbours every day. In the morning, I'm a bit like, oh, let's just stay inside. But you're so good at it.
I have to get up so early because he does so much better in the heat and it gets so hot in the day. So I have to get up really early so that I can get out.
No, that's true. But yeah, something I haven't been responding so well to, which is actually one of our listener questions today, is supplements. Dun, dun, dun. So yeah, we had a question about just supplements in general, about views on them and blood tests. A listener was telling us about the importance of being tested regularly or annually, which we've talked about in a previous episode, some of the tests you can get with your general practitioner annually and how they had a deficit of one of the minerals you need, but then feeling particularly sensitive to supplements. And this is something I know, Lindsay, you constantly struggle with, sensitivity to supplements. But for me on this trip, I think my biggest flare-ups and crashes have been supplement driven, and actually they're ones that my doctor has prescribed that looked at my test results and suggested, here's some supplements you can try. But yeah, I had 2 or 3 weeks after taking this one supplement, and then this past week again, I think a reaction to another supplement. So it's funny how...
It's really fascinating how the body changes over time. For me, it's been the opposite. I find as I get better with my CFS, my body's able to absorb supplements better. Yeah. But I used to have a reaction to almost any supplement. Sometimes, you just have to give it time for your body to get used to it. But sometimes it was just too much. And now that I'm healthier, getting there, it seems to be easier. But as we've said before, supplements are not the cure really for this. What I was doing before, spending thousands and thousands of dollars on supplements, especially when you're early in your illness. Actually, Heal with Liz did a really great article recently about 50 things she wished she knew before she had CFS or at the start. And one of them was subtracting near the start of things is much more important than adding things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the other thing too, there's a lot of supplements and minerals that you can get in liquid form. I've had liquid iron before myself. I've had that issue as well. And I take liquid zinc, and that can be easier because you can add up really, really slowly.
Yeah, that's true. And if you can do transdermal as well. But yeah, we purposely don't talk so much about supplements. We debated whether it's worth saying these supplements have worked for us, these ones haven't. But I really do think it's case by case. If you can work with a qualified practitioner to help you. But yeah, I mean, I've been in the place where injecting myself with B12 every day, taking so many supplements and actually feeling so much worse because of it. And definitely since I removed all of that and just a few ones now, then I've felt the load on my body is less. But yeah, I think you're right. The sequencing is just as important. Just because a supplement doesn't work for you now doesn't mean it won't work further down the road, because your body might just not be in a good enough state for it at the time. For me, my gut has been such a big issue, and I'm really fortunate that I think I have found a good blend of diet and supplements with this practitioner, that I'm now off the low FODMAPs and eating pretty much just like avoid gluten, dairy, sugar where I can. But yeah, doing pretty well out of that. Cool. So we're on to the last personality trait today, aren't we?
Right. Yeah. What are we talking about today?
Yeah, people pleasing.
People pleasing. And as a response to it, boundaries and values.
Boundaries and values. Yeah, excited for this one.
Yeah, I think it's a really good one and a really important one.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, do we need to talk about values? Do we need to talk about boundaries? Is this nice to have? But then I got to the place where, well, actually, it helps you understand what's important for you, your values, to stand up for yourself and put into place the things you need to live that kind of healthier, happier life for you. And also, I think chances are, if you've got to a place of having chronic fatigue, probably the life you were living pre-illness wasn't that sustainable, or at least the life you were living before is not really conducive to what a recovered life looks like moving forward, or you're going to have to make some changes. And so I think values and boundaries are really important to help make that happen.
Yeah, I think as someone who never actively thought about my values before, and who would always say that I had a huge issue with confrontation, I was so scared of it. Being better or more confident in this area removes stress, because you're like, oh, I can deal with these situations when they come up. You also gain confidence in yourself and feel your own value and worth and respect yourself more. I think there's a lot of value to it, and we all have neons in our life. There's that term again.
Remind us what it means.
It means people who are not easy on the nervous system are neons, not easy on the nervous system, and then eons are easy on the nervous system. So if you have neons on your life who continue to make things difficult for you, this could be really helpful.
And yeah, it's such a good point on the stress part. We're going to talk a little bit about how you come to understand your values, and actually the triggers for identifying a value. They can be stress related, it could be physical symptoms, it could be an emotional reaction. And so yeah, there really is a link between stress, unmet values, and then potentially the boundaries you can put into place because of that.
Yeah, and I think also with the addition of a chronic illness in our life, it's a good time to reassess our values, because things have changed. I mean, for me, definitely, I feel like a totally different person than 6 years ago in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Yeah, big life events change your values.
Yeah.
Cool. So any people pleasers? I'm sure there are quite a few out there. Listen in.
I'm here. Yeah.
So to kick us off then, which animal displays boundaries and values, Lindsay? I'm intrigued.
Meow, meow.
What's that? Is that a Mexican cat?
It's just a cat in general, Stu.
No, that was something outside.
Of the cat.
The cat. Woo!
I think it's a pretty clear animal for boundaries and values. If you're a cat person and you know cats, about their abilities to set boundaries for us, and about how much they know their own self-worth and value in general. I was thinking this morning, it came into my head, that song from, was it from Aristocats? I won't sing it because I know it's culturally offensive, but the one where it's like, I am Siamese if you please, I am Siamese if you don't please. They know who they are. So my first cat fact is the fact that they've been revered for their confidence and capacity throughout history. In ancient Egypt, it was illegal to kill cats. They were truly associated with the gods and also revered for their ability to kill rats as well. Super useful. In Alaska, there's a town where a cat named Stubbs was mayor for 20 years. Yes, very much. Had a lot of confidence in him. And in the Buddhist tradition, cats are believed to be the temporary resting spot for very powerful spiritual people before they move on to the next life. They spend time in a cat. Shows how respected cats have been shown to be throughout history. An interesting fact I found out about purring, how cats purr, is that it's a mechanism that they develop as a self-healing device, and it also sends messages to others. It's both healing for themselves and to others. It kind of reminds me of humming, how that helps the vagus nerve, because they say that it keeps their bones and their tissues in good condition. Just the act of purring. But yeah, like a boundary, it sends a message to others as well, that they're happy, that they're content, and it sends a message to their own body. We are happy, we are content.
Yeah, I see that. A nice reminder to others around, you're valuable, take care of yourself, calm down. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, there's been a lot of studies that show sleeping with a cat is actually really good for our health too, because of their calmness. Question for you, do you think cats or dogs are smarter, Stu?
I mean, instinctively cats, but I prefer dogs. So I don't know. I'm very allergic to cats, that's why.
Oh, I see. It's a trick question again. Okay. I feel like I'm always giving you trick questions. It's a bit of both. Dogs have more neurons than cats. Okay. They're more socially intelligent. They've really learned to adapt to us. However, cats have been shown to solve more complex cognitive problems and puzzles.
Wow. That's cool that they can scientifically know.
Yeah, it is really interesting. Dogs, of course, are a little bit more people pleasers, let's be honest. But cats actually and humans have a very similar brain structure. They have complex emotional centers just like humans. Not as complex, obviously, as humans, but they can recognize you, they can recognize your voice, and it's just that they often choose not to respond.
Okay, that's good to know.
Very cat-like to set up that boundary. I don't feel like responding to you, so I'm not going to. They spend a third of their waking life cleaning themselves, so shows that they know their own value and they value their cleanliness. Very much a piece of their valuing themselves, how clean they keep themselves. I wouldn't say the same for dogs or myself. And then a few random metaphors. The fact that they have actually a unique nose print, just like our fingerprint. Each cat has a unique nose, just like we all have unique values. And they can drink seawater, unlike us. So that's not a boundary for them.
That's funny then that they really don't like water. Well, that's the reputation.
Yeah, swimming. Most of them don't like swimming, but push came to shove, they could drink seawater though. So once we run out of water, they might do better than us.
Wow, yeah, I've learned a lot about the cats today. I really like the nose print, unique nose print. That's cute.
Yeah, it's a good idea if you have a cat to, maybe get an imprint of it. All right, Stu, so what is our agenda for today?
Well, so we are going to talk about what are values versus needs, then talk a little bit about how to work out your own values, and Lindsay and I have been doing our homework before this episode. How would you know if you need to set a boundary based on unmet values? And then finally, how would you go about setting up and then honouring that boundary too?
Sounds good.
Yeah, so should we jump in? Values and needs. This was something new to me.
Right, the difference. Yeah. Also, I never thought of it this way. Need is something that we require in our life to function well. Mm-hmm. What are the 6 categories? Was it 6?
Yeah, so this is taken from Toby Robbins has a theory that there are 6 core human needs, as you say, something we all require to function well, that we'll either find from a place of intention or desperation. So they can be healthy or unhealthy. And he lists them as certainty, so the need to be sure of something, variety, having a range of things in your life, significance, being needed and valued, love and connection, being part of that community, growth, so having a sense of purpose, and finally contribution, being part of something bigger. So certainty, variety, significance, love and connection, growth, and contribution. Quick fire for you.
Yeah, so a few things really like stand out when you say those ones. Certainty is a really interesting one when it comes to being a person with a chronic illness, hey?
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you have an illness that's misunderstood by science. That sense of certainty becomes way out of whack.
Yeah, so unpredictable.
That's really a need that we have to change our way of thinking about.
Get creative, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's such an important thing to have this mindset that I can heal and I will find a way to heal myself. And, as long as it takes, just to keep trying, because that helps with that certainty aspect in our lives.
But it's true, yeah. I think we have to get creative about all of these things. Variety, it can become very mundane, the lives that we lead with routine and what we're limited by. So getting creative about adding some variety to your days, contribution, being part of something bigger, significance, being needed and valued. Yeah, all these things, it can be easy to be really down on yourself about. But I suppose coming back to some of our previous episodes, changing how you view things, like what can you do? What do you have? And I'm not sure if we said, so these needs are universal. So every person needs these 6, where we're going to talk about values which are unique to us.
One note I just wanted to make too on Tony Robbins, because I'm listening to a fabulous podcast right now called Maintenance Phase. I'd really recommend it to everybody. They talk about the danger in creating idols out of people, especially in this wellness field, because we can really dive into one person's subjects and feel so connected to them. As some of you know, Tony Robbins has been accused of sexual assault, and I used to love him too. It's one of those things that you have to be really careful by idealizing anybody. It doesn't discount their knowledge and taking the ideas that, like this one, that are helpful for them. But this Maintenance Phase podcast, where they look at some of the scams in the wellness industry, I think it's a really good podcast. It helps us think more critically. We are so vulnerable when we're ill. We can really be taken for a loop. So
yeah, it's a good balance, actually. How curiosity, we think of open mind, but yeah, there is a need to be critical as well. It's not just, you do want curiosity, but you also want, counter to that, the critical thinking too.
Yeah, I mean, they're really harsh on the celery diet, the
medical medium,
and I learned a lot from that podcast. I'm still glad I did it, and I still think it helped me. And they don't say don't do it. They just have some really, really good information to help you make your decision better.
So then that's needs. Values then. Do you want to share the homework that we've been doing, Lindsay, around values? Identifying our own.
So values are something that's important to us and are unique and not fixed over time. Brene Brown had a podcast, we'll share it, where her and her sister talked about the importance of figuring out your own values. She provided a list of 100 values. I somehow missed that. It's on her website.
Yeah. We can share the link in the show notes.
Yeah, there's 100 values, and then she says pick 15 of them. And then from the 15, you want to narrow it down to 2 that really underlie all the rest of them. They're like your core 2 values.
Yeah.
And so we did this together.
Yeah.
It was really fun because we did it in a way that I tried to guess his 2. He told me his 15 and I told him my 15. And then I tried to guess his 2 and he tried to guess my 2. And we had a nice discussion about it. So if you can do it with other people, I think
it's really helpful to get that outside perspective, because it can be tough to go from the 15 values you identify with down to 2 core ones. But I think when you get into discussion, it's helpful to bounce ideas off each other.
Yeah, I found it interesting, especially because I didn't come from the list of 100. I just kind of was picking off the top of my head 15. Maybe they would have been the same anyways, but his are much more work focused or much more task focused, whereas mine are, what's a nicer word for fluffy? Love, nature. Really, they do speak to our personalities when we started to talk about them. And I was actually thinking the other night about the Enneagram. We've mentioned it on here before, how I'm a 2, which is the helper, with second place being the peacemaker. And he's an achiever, number 3, with a second place of a peacemaker. And if you really look at our values, it's actually exactly in line with that.
But yeah, so Lindsay's ones that we got to were connection, her connection with nature, her love of networking and bringing people together, sharing ideas, and then compassion too, which was a big debate we had about, is it fairness, equity, equality, justice? You landed on compassion. You were strong on that one, weren't you?
I was, and then I've been going back and forth, actually, because I was like, oh, my love of justice, because I've done so much volunteering with underserviced and underprivileged communities, and I get really upset about some of the lack of recognition of minorities and their struggles by certain kinds of people who are prominent in the media. So I was thinking underlying the justice of that is the compassion. I do have more compassion for those who are in these situations. But yeah, connection, my friends would really laugh and be like, of course, I'm known as the connector. I'm the central person who got all my friends to be friends with each other. And if you look at what my goal is, what I want to do, my dream job would be to connect people who are housebound and bedbound with animals, bring them dogs so that they can have animal-assisted therapy. And the whole reason I love this podcast is not so much be the smart person who knows everything, but to connect everyone with the resources that I've been lucky enough to have.
And I feel like the compassion or justice comes into that
Yes,
as well.
Also true, yeah. And then for Stu, his top 2 ended up being thoughtfulness and contribution, which really makes sense to me. Definitely the thoughtfulness. Gosh, you've never met a more thoughtful person.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, I'm not as sure on that one, but yeah.
Oh, your gifts. I mean, you're always thinking of so much about the person.
Yeah, maybe it gets into the shade of that value is the overthinking.
Well, we all come from that a little bit. And then the contribution.
Yeah, contribution is it contribution? Is it recognition? I think recognition is a big one for me. Don't love it, but being recognized to be doing something.
We all love that.
But then actually, I think it's more being recognized to contribute. So it was contribution at work, at home, with the dishes, all the small things, which, well, both of them actually interestingly have a people pleaser tendency, thoughtfulness and contributor. So yeah, you've got to be aware of the flip side to it as well. But yeah, it's a fun exercise and it was good debate. So would recommend to give it a go.
Yeah, it was really helpful for us, I think. Interestingly, when we did the CFS health program, Gemma Hanley, she had a different approach to figuring out your values.
Yeah.
She had 6 areas.
Yeah, 6 areas of life.
Yeah, 6 areas of life. She suggested that you pick 2 or 3 values within each of those 6 areas of life. So the difference would be Brene Brown would say that those same 2 that underlie all your values will fit in every area of life. And Gemma would say that it's useful to look at the different areas and what your values are in each of them.
Yeah, I think Gemma's would be a lot more fluid. So her 6 areas are health, money, purpose, relationships, career, and play.
Try and think of a few in each of them. And if you also do Brené's activity, you can see, oh, do I have the same one in each of those?
Yeah.
Or are they a bit different?
But yeah, so I was monthly journaling with this for a while. So independence might kind of push up within money 1 month, or freedom. But then actually by the next month, you're like, oh, actually it's generosity. And so it's a lot more fluid of where you're leaning towards. Life circumstances are dictating you one way or the other. Whereas Brené definitely seems to be saying, here's your 2 core identity values. They do shift in your life, but she was saying that hers of curiosity and faith, it had been curiosity the whole time she had done it, and faith that had changed in recent years.
Yeah, pretty consistent. I think she recommended they check in about once a year, whereas I think maybe Gemma's are more regularly you'd want to check in.
Thinking about it, maybe it's helpful with Gemma's approach of the 6 areas of life when you think about boundaries. If one of your values is being unmet in a certain area of life.
Yeah, kind of a backwards approach.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, to see, oh, actually, I'm really struggling here. The reason could be because within my career, my value of freedom is not being met. I have a micromanager that just keeps controlling everything I do. So yeah, I can see the value of that too. But I see the threads of consistency of contribution and thoughtfulness across those 6 different areas.
And it's easier to keep 2 things in your mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is a boundary?
Yeah, so Gemma again has a good definition for this. Something that needs to be communicated with yourself or with others about how you want things to be. So it's not happening at the moment.
I was just going to add that our dear friend Heal with Liz, one of her blog posts about boundaries, and she says that a boundary is a choice we make to facilitate thriving. I like that. It's a positive way of defining it. She also says, author Shannon Algeo, he says that it's the means through which we teach others how we want to be treated and how we want to be loved.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, and I like the choice idea. I think when we talk about setting a boundary, the first choice is very tough, and then honoring the ongoing choosing. But I guess like when we talked about habits before, the first time it's tough, but it should become a little bit easier every time you choose to honor it, you choose to reinforce whatever it is you're doing to heal. So yeah, that's a good one.
For sure. So how do we know we need one?
So Gemma has some really good ideas on this too. So the way she describes it is that when you're having a negative reaction towards something or an emotion or actually like physical symptoms, so it could be anger because you're not being heard. It could be anxiety because you're not being true to yourself or feeling ashamed. Or it could be, I don't know, interrupted sleep, hives, eczema, actually a physical thing happening. And this is where I think it links back to that stress idea. So your body is put under some sort of stress. The way she would talk about it is that your value or need is being unmet in that situation. And so your body is having a physical reaction to it, either through emotions or through symptoms. And so communicating to you, this isn't right, something needs to change here. And so that's really helpful, I find, for like the link between values and then boundaries. It's not just saying, oh, I need to eat 10 veg a day because this person tells me I need to eat 10 veg a day. I need to go to sleep by 9 o'clock because that's what you do to heal. Actually, the boundaries that you put into place, they're more values driven and they are personal to you, which I think is helpful.
Right. How you value your health, value yourself. And once you start to really align with your values, at least for myself, I think it helps you to respect yourself more and trust yourself more. Yeah. I've said before that for me, as annoying as it was to do that 3-month Candida diet because it was so strict, just showing myself I could do it and I would do it for myself made a big difference for me somehow in trusting myself.
Nice. Yeah. So do you want to take us through one of your examples?
Yeah, so when you're looking at, oh, I'm having a negative reaction to a relationship here, what you want to ask yourself, I guess, is how I'm feeling and why this is important to me? What assumptions am I making? What stories am I making up? What are my fears? And what would I rather be happening, right? So my example is with a person. I'm kind of amalgamating a few persons, actually, people who continually make comments where they assume they know what's best for me with my health. For example, I just eat this and I'm fine. These kinds of comments which make me feel like they don't respect my decision-making abilities. Yeah, making comments that are unwelcome, especially when they do it repeatedly. What assumptions am I making? Well, sometimes it's that, they don't trust me, as I was saying. They don't believe in my abilities to figure out what's right for me. Obviously, the fears come up of, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? It makes you doubt yourself, which doesn't feel nice. And what would I rather be happening is I'd rather it be more of them listening. They can ask questions. I'm fine with, oh, this diet just works for me. Maybe asking questions like, what diet are you on right now? And just respecting that I know myself.
Oh, that's a good one. Nice. I'm excited to hear how you then went about setting a boundary in a minute.
The hard part.
Yeah.
So give us an example for yourself.
Yeah, so mine is I had set in place a boundary, but it's now an old boundary is no longer serving me. When my friends visited me, so it's quite recent, they left, had so much fun, really good time, kind of got caught back up into like that life, the healthy me before, hearing about their dating, their careers, their independence in London. When they had left, that kind of brought up a lot of, I suppose, sadness of, oh, is that my reality? Not really. And this trip as well, actually, I've had a lot more independence here, living away from my family. And as I've said before, I love my family. They've given me so much support during my illness. But I didn't visualize myself living at home with my parents when I was 30, where I am now. So I think it's, the feelings of sadness, why it's important to me is that value of independence and freedom. So then the what would I rather happen is interesting, because definitely moving home was a big, really helpful boundary, moving away from London for my health, greater rest, for greater recuperation, support at the time. But now thinking, well, if independence is so key for me, which is a challenge with chronic fatigue, what can that look like? So could it be my living situation? Could it be small bits of work, training courses, cooking my own food, house sitting? There's like lots of other ways that it could look without necessarily being like a huge jump, or it has to be how it was before my illness. So these questions were quite helpful for me as I worked through some of those feelings, values, and then thinking forward, what are some of the boundaries I could look to incorporate?
Yeah, it sounds like you were doing a really good job of, it was a very hard boundary for me to go past of asking people for help. And you did that very well when you needed it by moving in with your parents. But now it's time to reassess now that you don't need them so much. And what do you want to see now happen in terms of what your new boundary, you're expanding. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think it's a good example of, boundaries aren't forever, the same way values aren't forever. Things change.
So now it's the hard part of, how do we set a boundary?
Tell us, Lindsay.
Oh, God. Full disclosure, I don't think I'm very good at this yet.
No, I agree.
The people pleaser is strong within me. Even though it really, truly, and I know this, it's like short term, it's hard, the conversation, but in the long term, it'll really take off a lot of stress. But so the questions that Gemma lays out for how do we set a boundary are, what do I want? Is the big number one question you want to write down and think about. Yeah,
focusing on do want as opposed to I don't want this, I don't want this. It's actually, what do I want to achieve here?
Yeah. Number two is, you need to communicate and equip others with the information.
Yeah, people aren't mind readers.
Yeah, exactly. People aren't just going to figure that out. And then the number 3 is how to have the conversation itself, which you could tell everyone about. What are some good ideas for?
Yeah, I was thinking about if you need to have a boundary conversation. A good one for me was when I wanted to step back from work. I was actually feeling really like blameful, that's not a word, but really blamey, accusatory, I'm not valued, this is awful, or really resentful towards everyone else. But actually picking an appropriate time with my manager, signposting, could we have this chat about work situation and my health? So that's really important, picking an appropriate time and giving the other person the heads up.
And place, yeah.
Yeah, time and place, you're right. And actually not focusing so much on, oh, woe is me, but actually leading more with my needs and values and why this is so important to me. So I was very conscious. I didn't want to blame him. I didn't want to blame work. It was more, this is where I am, and for my health's sake, I really need to make some changes here. You can ask for feedback too, like, I'm telling myself this, that I'm not being valued. Actually, is that true? And in fairness, it was such a good conversation. My boss was hugely supportive. I did have a doctor's note signing me off for 6 months at the time anyway, which was really helpful. But I went in with an alternative solution, an ideal outcome, and it was received hugely well. And I mean, to be honest, when you have this conversation, it doesn't mean that you're going to get the ideal outcome, but what you do get is information that you can do something with. So had he turned around and say, no, to be honest, you have to keep working, the team's too stretched as it is, I could have just people pleased and sucked it up. Or I could have said, okay, well, unfortunately, I can't do that at the moment, and step back. I was very lucky I didn't have to make that decision.
Yeah, I think like the big picture here is that the importance of preparation and pre-thought before you have a boundaries conversation, because if you try to just do it on the spot, you could lead with emotions and end up saying things you regret, like, you always do this, or you are so like this, instead of, like you said, you did very well, which is leading with, these are my values and this makes me feel this way, which may sound cheesy, but it really, really is a way better way to approach another person if you're looking for a specific outcome, to let them know how you're feeling. And also give them the chance to not necessarily respond on the spot, but say like, you don't have to respond to this right now. We can set up another time to talk again. Because again, they may respond out of a place of emotional, they feel challenged or
cornered, or
cornered. That's a good way to say it.
It is important to be aware of the other person's capacity for change and their behaviors going into it. The other person's kind of self-awareness, their emotional awareness, vulnerability. But yeah, it's all information. So even if you tell yourself the story, oh, they're going to react this way, and then they do react this way, it's kind of evidence for you to say, okay, now I know that, then I can make a decision here one way or the other.
Yeah, or you could always try again at another time if it doesn't quite feel like the conversation happened productively. But yeah, like you said, some people are just never going to change and they don't want to change. I have people like that in my life for sure. My example was kind of different actually, because over the course of my illness, there's actually been 2 people that I've chosen to cut out of my life. It sounds so harsh. They both came from situations where I felt like we had different values. Now that I really understand my values, I can see that really clearly. One where I just felt like disrespected, like they didn't respect my values. And they said something to me that I found quite harsh and wasn't respectful to my values. And then the other person, it was a case where over the years, it's been clear that our values have been changing. We've been going on different paths values-wise. I don't think that they didn't respect my values, but our friendship it had to change.
Yeah, I think chronic illness really highlights and hones your own values. We're going to talk about support community next time. And I think naturally you can lose a whole ton of relationships from your life when you go through something like this.
Yeah, it's a really make or break.
Yeah, but then you surprise yourself or others surprise you with some relationships come into your life or bloom and blossom where you think, wow, I didn't realize that. But actually through going through something as tough as chronic fatigue, then values align with other people too. So yeah, what you described there of you and your friends slowly drifting, but then having to make the tough, raw decision to say, actually, this isn't worth it. I think a lot of people will be in similar situations there.
Yeah, isn't worth it. Yeah, and then in the other case of not feeling respected. But that being said, is there a piece to both of those where I just didn't want to have a conversation? Probably.
So you didn't proactively go out and say anything to them. You just kind of chose to take a step back. No, I think that's fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, if they had approached me and been like, oh, Lindsay, why aren't you in contacting me anymore? Then I would have been honest, I think. But I was still being a little chicken. And I think that, I don't know, I'm still reconsidering those relationships and whether there would be some value in being honest about why our relationship has gone the way it has. And, you know, maybe we could have some kind of relationship still, even if it doesn't look like it used to.
But I mean, we're not saying that because you identify a value and a potential boundary that you have to have a boundary conversation or it's the right thing to have the conversation. I think the emotional awareness is really powerful as it is. And there are like conversations that I'm like, oh, might need to have that at some point, or it probably would be good to have that, or actually just unsure, like I'm not 100% sure how this would go. And so I've consciously chosen I'm just not going to for now, because also we're unwell. So like go easy on yourself. And I do some of them, I'm like, when I'm a bit better, I might have that conversation, which is definitely partly being chicken, as you say, but equally a bit of self-compassion too. So yeah,
that's true. I really do, as usual, need to give myself more compassion. But I do think in the long term, these conversations can make you feel better in the long run, as hard as they can be.
Yeah, if you're dwelling on it, if you're a journaler and you keep coming back to it, if you're a dreamer and you keep having dreams about the same thing, then I feel like, what's the quote about action is the enemy of worry or something? Actually, I think in that situation, it is good to do something if clearly it's stressing you out continuously. Brill. So honouring boundaries then.
Yeah, we've kind of touched on this already, but I think one of the most important things is journal. Once you figure out where you need a boundary and what you want to say and how you want to say it and what you wish happened, all the steps we talked about, journaling is just so helpful.
Yeah, the most important thing I think is the emotional reaction. So if you have the emotional reaction, you identify the value and you consciously try to put into place a boundary, it's then the checking in with how you feel about it that's important. It really helps articulate for me what's going on and has anything changed.
Yeah, checking in over time, realigning.
And then you had some good...
Yeah, Heal with Liz has, like I said, a good blog post about boundaries that she wrote, 9 boundaries that she set with chronic fatigue, and I think they're all really good for us. I set my own pace.
Nice, yeah.
I say no without an apology or detailed explanation.
Ooh, that's tough.
Hard one, but good one. I say goodbye when I'm ready to go.
Yeah, that's good.
We just talk at that sometimes with the elderly people in this community.
Yeah, that's true.
They love talking to us. I ask for what I need.
Yeah.
As we've said, we're both better at that now.
Mm.
Number 5 is I remind myself that other people's energy and what they say or do cannot affect me, which is interesting. I think naturally the people we're affected by others. But
superhuman power if you can do that, but yeah.
Yeah, trying not to be affected by other people and what they say or do. I think what she's getting at there is what we were talking about. We can't expect others to understand.
Yeah, no one has an obligation to understand you, but when they do, it's great.
Yeah, I feel like so long in my illness, I was looking for other people to understand my illness and really get it, and I just gave up on that. No one's going to get it. Yeah. Or if they do, it's nice.
But when it's someone really close to you that doesn't, yeah, it's really hard. That really affects me. I get what she's saying, but it's a toughie.
Yeah. Number 6 is I wait to respond, which is good. We just talked about that, how it's good to give yourself time. I carve out time for what's important to me. I don't hold myself responsible for taking away someone else's pain. That's a good one as a helper.
Oof, yeah. I'm thinking about all the mums and dads as well. It's going to be really hard.
Yeah. Oh, and it's just such a good distraction to help other people. So you got to be so careful, especially
young mums and dads. I don't know.
I know. I do all the above with a recovery mindset, which is S. And she says, bonus boundary, I don't try to fill the space.
Oh, yeah. Okay. For an achiever or contributor, that's a good reminder. Yeah. And I think, with this and everything we talked about, your quote at the beginning, the way we show up to boundaries demonstrates to others what's okay. Well, we talked before when you take yourself off for a rest, when you're with friends, or if it's food, if you're not eating a certain type of food or you are eating a certain type. Definitely the first time feels a bit uncomfortable, a bit awkward. But for me, at least, every time you do it, it becomes a bit easier. Other people respect it, expect it a bit more as well. So honouring should become easier. Touch wood.
Yeah, and also the thing that I drone on about in every episode about finding that value in yourself that's not based on what you achieve, but who you are as a person. It goes both ways with boundaries. You're both going to value yourself more when you set those boundaries and you're able to show yourself that you can do this. And by valuing yourself more, you're going to intrinsically want to set boundaries for yourself more.
Nice. Cool. Is it poem time?
I think it's poem time. I haven't heard this one. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's a bit meta, actually, because this is a villanelle.
Whoa.
Which is a form of poetry which is quite formulaic. It's got a lot of boundaries in it in terms of the structure that you'll probably hear as I go.
I thought it was that girl from Killing Eve.
Yeah, I know. I wonder if she's...
Is that her name?
It definitely is. If anyone knows, let us know. Be curious to hear. Maybe she's named after a poem style. Cool. I pour myself into this mould to see what settles, see what spills. What once had worked has since grown old. A brutal truth I've come to know. Though fear to face its harsh face still, I pour myself into this mould. Ears I'd once bend, now deftly closed, their careless comments strike a chill. What once had worked has since grown old. A tired routine now takes its toll, and pleasing others unfulfills, I pour myself into this mould. Frustration makes my values known, and prompts the need for boundaries. What once had worked has since grown old. The marble seeps and gently flows, new ridges guide me where to fill. I pour myself into this mould, what once had worked has since grown old. The villanelle.
Ooh, that's so cool. Oh, look at you, Shakespeare.
I know, yeah. You can tell it's oldie.
But a goodie. I liked it a lot. Yeah, I want to listen to it a few times.
Yeah, maybe we will share this one on the Instagram.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for listening. If you are still listening, I encourage you, if you have Instagram, to follow us at Post Viral Podcast. Mm-hmm. And always feel free to email us at postviralpodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
And let us know what you think or if this was helpful.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your values and if you do it with a friend or family member. Yeah, next time, this leads quite nicely into support community. We're going to be talking about next time and the importance of that. I've written a little note here that no one person is going to meet all of our needs and values. Yeah, we're going to be talking about tiers of relationships and fundamental values for ourselves in support community next time. So prepare.
Yeah, it'll be fun. All right. I hope everyone's doing well out there. And if not, take care of yourself.
Cheerio.
Bye.